Again, intuitively, you probably already understand where a specific experiment would fall within the list. So friction reduction is the most obvious. Lead form, multi-step forms, maybe removing some form fields, maybe surfacing a skip the form type chatbot. These are all plays that are removing the friction from the user's journey, from getting them to convert very deep in the funnel. The results are going to persist quite drastically.
An important part of that intent decay equation was the test type, and you actually have a multiplier in there for it. And I want to spend some time digging into the different types of tests and what we've seen. And presumably, this is going to be for our audience, which is, demand generation, lead gen, B2B, and how the type of test influences the decay and ultimately like the ROI projection.
And I'm not saying that this is a all-encompassing list. I threw this together just for the purpose of our presentation here, but I think it covers, for the most part, most experiments that I see be run on our end or that maybe our customers are proposing as well. And really it comes down to this. Like if we are doing something that is, can't think of the right word, but an urgency basis where we're instilling some sort of emotion and a psychological lever to get the user to convert. That's a tactic that, as you can probably guess, has a very high decay. And we're not going to capture any additional high intent users that wouldn't already be motivated enough without some of these kind of surface level hacks and tricks. Whereas the other end of the equation, friction reduction, and this is something we do a lot and communicate a lot to our customers, the importance of reducing friction, not just in the visitor's experience to become a prospect and become a lead, but also the back-end processes as that lead flows to your marketing automations and your sales teams. Those sorts of optimizations we find really impact across the board high intent and low intent users more equally than some of the other approaches. And we see the decay for those much less. This is where we get to the aspect of when you're communicating your results, perhaps on a QPR over a quarterly basis, you have a bucket of experiments you've run, and all of them are different test types. You've done a couple friction reduction tests, a couple increasing motivation, social proof, trust, etc. It's not one equation to be applied to all those experiments because as we just discussed, like it's going to impact these users in different ways. So applying a given multiple on an experiment by experiment basis and then tallying those up to reach your final ROI figure is the best approach and will give you the most accurate reading of your actual performance.
Looking at this, I mean, shouldn't we and people who are running experimentation programs be using this kind of hierarchy to help prioritize tests? So, for example, right, doing a pop-up that just gets top of the funnel attention seems less valuable to me than reducing friction at the bottom of the funnel in your form, simplifying your forms, because you're simplifying your form is going to capture more high intent visitors as leads, and ultimately the ROI will decay less than your top of the funnel cosmetic change.
It's a great call out. I think the most simple prioritization structure that we come across is the ICE method, of course, but it's completely ignoring what sort of impact one of these experiments might have over the long term. So certainly that like it's a powerful use case for introducing this sort of intent decay function, not just into your ROI calculations, but your prioritization methods as well. It will completely change what sort of experiments you see as high impact when you come to the realization that some of them are going to decay immediately. It's a fool's errand to go after them.
Can you go into more detail on how You might be able to identify the type of tests and the decay rate and use that for sort of long-term optimization?
I just want to call out as well to everyone listening, don't overthink this. There might be a time and a place to do that. But in general, however you decide to implement this type of approach, it's going to be better than what folks are currently doing with the linear method. Again, intuitively, you probably already understand where a specific experiment would fall within the list. So friction reduction is the most obvious. Lead form, multi-step forms, maybe removing some form fields, maybe surfacing a skip the form type chatbot. These are all plays that are removing the friction from the user's journey, from getting them to convert very deep in the funnel. The results are going to persist quite drastically. Other things, increasing motivation with headline copy, testimonials, social proof, that sort of thing can fall into the trust building. And then personalization, again, like very targeted segmentation, content toasters, things of that nature, often is a bit more variable and hard to nail down.
So looking at this list, I think, and I'm wondering where some of the things that we've talked about in the past fit in, like improving the offer and the offer framing and the positioning. Those are things that we've talked about as being extremely relevant and high value to B2B. And maybe this isn't a complete list, but I'm curious as to where like those would fall.
Yeah, so not a complete list. I don't know if like offers and reframing offers and plays like that would fall neatly at least into this graph. But those are going to be in general more high performance than not, maybe more aligned with the friction. Let me just close out real quickly though, like for everyone, like a simplified approach. I think you're going to know based off this table here where a given experiment is going to lie. It's not rocket science. So here's a good starting point for you to apply this multiple when you do your annualized projections over time. And as a base case, and of course this can vary business by business, but we do see, roughly maybe a 30-70% split of conversions between these lower intent or visitors between these lower intent or higher intent 30%, lower intent 70%. So that should give you a good foundation to apply this methodology and kind of roll with it, expand it, build upon it, and see what you can come up with.
Yeah, I mean, given that 30-70% split, I think is important, right? Because one of the things we said before, which maybe I'll push back on, is it's impossible to, from one of the earlier slides that you showed, that we weren't getting any new high intent visitors into the funnel. But we're saying you can, right? And you can with certain types of experiments. It's just you got to pick the right kinds of experiments at the right stage in the funnel to do so.
For sure. Yeah. Great call out.
How do you recommend, people actually like incorporate this into their programs and reporting framework?
Well, look, you might not like it, right? Like it's going to decrease the figures that you share and maybe market and things of that nature. So it really like you have to decide if this is for you, if more truthful projections, more accurate numbers are aligned with what you want to put out. So that's the first thing. You're going to be able to use this for not just your ROI projections, but your prioritization methods as well. Certainly easier to just roll it out on ROI and using some of these baseline figures we supplied to you. You can do that tomorrow. So get a feel for it. See if that's something that resonates with you, and then moving forward, you have your backlog, hypothesis, test idea, segmented per swim lane, and then applied some sort of prioritization framework. Add an additional variable there. Add an additional decay multiple variable, depending on the test type, and see how that changes what you may have put forth previously, what you may have prioritized otherwise.
And so much of this is dependent on the type of visitor coming to your experiment or page, whether they're high intent, lower intent, and what that split is how do you go about identifying what that user mix is, what the split of intent is coming to your site, certain pages on your site?
Again, this is where like you could overanalyze it and really geek it out. Use our average numbers that we provided previously to get started. If you really want to know, you're going to have to put in the time to see how your experiments are actually performing over time, and perhaps also turn off some of the optimizations that maybe you've rolled out 100% or full scale for some period of time. So let's just use a friction reduction experiment as an example. Maybe you removed a bunch of form fields. You measured the initial impact. You've now rolled that out on your website. If you actually want to know what your split is for those types of tests, one recommendation, maybe there's others, is turn off the optimization and see how that impacts things. And if you will likely see some sort of dropout there, and you should be able to equate that to lower intent conversions, whatever that drop may be.
Cool. So maybe let's leave this with one like takeaway. You're running a CRO program or thinking about running a CRO program. And what do you want people to take away in terms of the intent decay, formula and approach?
I think a few things to take away. One, everyone knows your linear numbers are not real. So stop pretending they are. This is not hard work for an initial rollout. We need to do better as an industry, as partners, as allowing our customers to allocate resources to proper initiatives. They have to know what the actual return is going to be. So the one takeaway is we need to be more truthful and put forth to our best effort actual performance figures that businesses can trust. The second thing is, I hope maybe this has resonated with some of you and maybe inspired some of you into thinking about your programs and your efforts on a much more deeper level. And maybe you can build upon this and expand upon it. And this is a good starting point.
Yeah, and I guess I'd add another one, which is like if you understand and think about the sort of conservation of intent and funnel stages that are sort of represented in this, then you should be prioritizing your experiments much more effectively based on that because you want to optimize for long-term impact, not just, short-term low intent conversion boost. So if you're doing that and you're measuring appropriately, you should use this as a framework to prioritize experiments better.
Well said.
Well, thanks for this, David. Good work.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad we finally got it out there. Um, Maybe it'll make a change. I know it's made a change for us so far. So we'll see.
All right.